Welcome to the common chaos of sisterhood.
I'm Haley.
And I'm Amy.
Come hang out with us.
Grab your drinks and get comfy.
And let's get into it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. We are happy to be here today.
Yes.
And today we have a special one for you. And we're going to start off with a content warning. If you are not into true crime, this is probably not one for you. There's going to be a lot of scamming. There's going to be a lot of, torture, murder, um, alcoholism, like speak of alcoholism, speak of suicide. Um, but if that's not something that you can handle, I would say go to another episode or wait for the next one. But everyone else, welcome and thank you for sticking around and hanging out with us. Um, Today, I am going to start off with the question again. How could I have been a better sibling to you when we were growing up?
That was a little hard one because, I don't think there was really anything. I think the only thing, really would be, um, in high school if you were, there more. But then again, I feel like we wouldn't be as close as we're now.
So I'm perfect and you wouldn't change anything about me.
Uh, I don't
That's
know
not what
about
I said.
that.
That is not what I said.
But I mean, I was like, there's nothing really that I can pinpoint that you could have quote unquote done better
Mm. I
because
mean, there's a couple of things I could pinpoint that I could have done better,
what?
like not kind of shelter you as much as a
Yeah,
kid,
yeah, yeah,
like kind of let you kind of sometimes fight your own battles, but that's just not who I am, so I couldn't.
yeah. No, but I feel like once you left, I kind of figured that one out on my own, and I really don't think that really affected me or affected our relationship at all. So I mean, I don't know. I think we had a pretty good relationship.
I think we did pretty good.
So I don't think there is anything to really change per se besides you leaving me, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm sorry about that. That I can't help that one. All right, going on to the topic today, we are going to talk about Mr. H. Holmes. Do you know who that is?
um I haven't actually heard anything about him prior to looking at the
Us,
stuff for this episode.
us studying for this episode.
Yeah.
Well, he was the quote unquote America's first serial killer. I truly believe that there's probably more before that, but he's the first kind of documented serial killer.
Right.
Um, he is probably more known for his murder castle with in Chicago. It's a pretty much a horror show there. It's torture. We'll go more into what it had into it, but the closest thing I can try to explain to it, if you ever seen the Saw movies, like let's play a game type thing, that's exactly what his murder castle reminded me of.
Yeah. And before we even get into this, just the thought of a murder castle, how does anyone create something like that and just
You
get
just
away with it?
a
Like,
messed up mind and being
so
back in the
crazy.
1800s.
True, true.
Nowadays, you wouldn't be able really be able to get away with a lot of stuff like that because the internet. But the
Yeah.
1800s, no cell phones, no nothing like that. So you could pretty much get away with murder.
Anything. Yeah, literally.
But he's also known to kill. He had killed over 200 plus people.
That's
We're not really
insane.
sure about that number because of just how dishonest in like most everything that is like that we know about H.H. Holmes comes from him. So we really don't know. So we're gonna start off with kind of his raising and how he kind of became the person he was, and then go into um, what he did and his capture. Alright, so H.H. Holmes was actually born Herman Webster Mudgett.
That's an
That was
unfortunate name.
a very terrifying name. He was born on May 16th, 1861 in New Hampshire. He was said to be the 3rd out of 4 to 5 kids. We don't really know how many siblings he had, but he had been a middle child. He came from a very important family. They were farmers, devout Christians, and super hardworking. They had a very strict raising, disciplinary, kind of raising. You do what I say when I say it, my way or the highway type raising.
Mhm.
And again, most of what we know of his childhood and of like scenarios that happened did come from him, and he's known to be a compulsive liar. He changes his stories. So kind of bear with us and take what you want to out of this, you know?
So essentially, just kind of take what we say, like what the stories that he claims to have happened, the way it happened, kind of more with a grain of salt, just because he's that type of person. Um, so his mother, Theodate Page Price, like
Another fortunate name.
none other fortunate name, yes. Um, like they said, they were very. She was very strict and religious, so they made her do religious studies. But she wasn't like a loving mother. She was more cold and distant with him. Not very like caring, motherly. Like want to take care of you. More okay. Here, you're at arm's length, and like more distant with him.
Yeah.
His father, on the other hand, Levi Horton Mudgett, um, was a tough disciplinary, and he was also an alcoholic. So his mother was very cold and distant. His father was an abusive alcoholic.
Great combination.
It's a poor child. I was gonna
It's
say,
combination to make a murderer.
literally.
So like I said, his mother was abusive, very abusive most emotionally. Father was actually very abusive physically. A lot of their punishments had to do with being isolated from the rest of the family. So they did something that they weren't supposed to, they didn't like. They'd be just locked up in a room. They were not getting any food. They were essentially starved um, when they got in trouble. If they were being too loud, Levi would put rags soaked in kerosene over their mouths. Could you imagine, like, as a child, um, you just children are loud. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Um, I've said this multiple times before. I'm not a kid person. I love my daughter. I love my circle of kids, but kids are loud. They're obnoxious. They're balls of energy.
Yes.
And you're gonna sit there and put chloroform over their mouths just because kids are being kids?
Right. So essentially, they were
Like,
emotionally abused, physically abused, and pretty much poisoned.
yeah,
Essentially.
um, breeding grounds for a serial killer. But to get away, little Herman would run into the woods, near his house. Even as a small child, he was incredibly smart. He liked to read a lot of books. How he got a hold of his favorite author, I don't know, but his favorite was Edgar Allan Poe. How he got a hold of that book in such a strict house with the parents, like, I guess, being isolated and kept out of arm reach, you can kinda get away with what you wanna get away with.
Yeah.
Being the middle child, I got away with what I wanted to get away with, so I guess that helped.
Yeah.
But he would also keep, little treasures. He would keep boxes out in the woods of stuff that he wanted to keep, and his most prized possession was one of his own teeth.
That's just
So
weird.
he would have a little box with his little treasures in it, and one of them had a tooth in it,
His own tooth.
his own
I mean, I
tooth.
guess it makes it a little less weird that it's not someone else's tooth,
Yeah, I don't know, like,
but
I just the whole like, my Emery right now, has loose teeth right now, and it grosses like, maybe, like, baby's first haircut, stuff like that, but I feel weird about keeping keeping her teeth.
Just weird.
That's just weird to me.
Oh my goodness. So as a young boy, he was actually bullied quite a bit. One of the times that he was bullied, a couple boys had pushed him into a closet at a doctor's office that had a skeleton inside of it. The skeleton freaked him out. Like, just imagine being a little kid and just being shoved into a dark closet with this like skeleton
Yeah.
in it with
Let's
you.
see, I love, like, bone, skeleton, stuff like that kinda stuff, I love that. But could you imagine, like, if like, dolls, I'm terrified of dolls. Someone
Hmm.
shoved me in a closet full of dolls,
Right.
yeah, I'd be scarred for life.
Exactly. And then another time, a doctor actually forced him to look at a skeleton in his office, um, which didn't help his phobia about this. And he was completely terrified of skeletons. He actually said it looked like the skeleton was smiling at him with outstretched arms.
Just like, "Come here for a hug,
Yeah,
dude."
yeah, literally. It was so creepy. But it is actually later said that these two incidents actually is what made him curious about the human anatomy.
I mean, when you kinda shoved into it, when you're what you're afraid of, you kinda wanna know more about it, kinda, like,
Right.
make it less scary.
Exactly. I mean, not really me because don't put me in a room with snakes. Like, no, thank you. I
You
would not be
you're not
okay.
curious about it?
No, I would not be curious about it. I'd probably have a heart attack and die.
Well, after he got curious about the human anatomy, he started trapping animals to dissect them and perform quote unquote surgeries on them. He started off with very small animals, lizards, reptiles, stuff like that. And he slowly worked his way up to larger animals like rabbits, squirrels, stuff like that. And then bigger animals like dogs. He would just go in and kinda dissect them and try to figure out how they work, what body parts were, and it's just weird. He would completely mutilate these animals.
So essentially, his whole childhood just kind of led him to be set up to be a serial
Yeah, pretty much. At the age of 11 years old, Herman and his friend Tom were playing in an abandoned house. Tom fell off the roof to his death, so he saw his first actual human death at the age of 11 years old. It is said that it wasn't an accident, that he was the one who pushed him off, and that was actually his first murder, but it has never been actually proven. So it's kind of a do you think that was his first murder or not?
Right, and as even if it was him that like pushed him off to see, let's see what happens. That's still gotta be traumatizing as an 11-year-old
Yeah.
to like
Just
witness
like
your
see
friend.
your best friend.
Yeah. Well, um, Herman was actually above average in his intelligence. He was a very smart kid. He actually graduated high school at the age of 16 and 19. Nope. Mm-mm.
19.
No, in 1877. He was very observant. He would notice anything that happened around him. He was constantly like around anything that happened. He was very observant with it, what was happening around him. But he didn't really understand personal space. He was the type of person that would like you be talking to him, he'd be standing too close to you, um, or just sit there and like just stare at people for long periods of time, and sometimes even like just randomly touch them would like making these people uncomfortable. Um, he was seemed like a very uncomfortable person to be around. But on the other hand, he was very charming and smooth talking. He had a way with words that essentially made girls swoon over him. Even though,
So, like, random touching, "Don't touch me, I don't feel, like, comfortable, but I like your words."
yeah, exactly, exactly.
It's just that's crazy how you can, like, be, like, a weird, weird person, but as long as you have a good way with words, everyone's like, "Oh, no, he's great."
Yeah, no, it's insane. I would not be okay.
But you can be the most respectful, reserved person and not be able to, get words out correctly, and they're like, "Oh, you're weird."
yeah, yeah.
That's something that I was always, picked on about is because the way I speak. I have speech impediments. And so even though I was a respectful person, I was a nice person for the most part. Um, I don't have a good way with words, so everyone thought I was weird.
Right.
With H. Holmes, he's the opposite. Weird dude, didn't take social cues very well, but he was very literate. So he actually started seeing this young lady, Clara Levering. She was the daughter of a very wealthy farmer and businessman. When they wanted to get married, they needed to get her father's consent because she was only 15 years old. And apparently they did get the consent because they eloped in July 4th, 1878, when she was only 15 and he was 17. Marriage was great for them. They loved each other. It was amazing. They appreciated each other until she got pregnant. When she got pregnant, he started losing interest in her. Was never home. It was just a young marriage. They didn't know each other very well. Kind of convinced her to marry her because he was a smooth talker, but realized, they were too young for that. And their son, Robert, was born. And after he was born, he would just leave for long periods of time. Just leave Robert with Clara and go do whatever he was wanting to do.
That would be so sad. Like being 15 years old, thinking you found the love of your life, getting married, and then as soon as you get pregnant, he wants nothing to do with you or the baby. Like that's just,
Yeah.
my
Like
goodness, so
that would have been
sad.
heartbreaking.
Oh yeah.
Like you're a kid yourself, like you're a child yourself, and then you're having a kid, and this person that says that they love you is just not there.
Right.
Well, Herman was a teacher before Robert was born, and Clara's parents really didn't like it. It wasn't a man's job. That wasn't known to be a manly man's job. That's not a good job to take care of your family. So Clara's father offered him a job at a grocery store that he owned. He needed like she told him like you need to get a better job. You have a baby coming. You have a baby on the way. Um, when Robert was born, he soon stopped working at the store and wanted to go into medicine. So he kind of had for him that kind of disappearing. He kind of had her parents at his throat, like, "Oh, you need to get a better job. You need to stop doing what you're doing." So that could honestly go towards the not wanting to do anything with the pregnancy, but no excuse. Like, there's no excuses for that. Well, when he quit the store, he became an apprentice to a Dr. White for about a year. Um, for apprenticing for about a year, he moved to Burlington, Vermont to study medicine in 1879 into University of Vermont. He went there without his family. He left Clara and Robert home, and he just wanted to go there and study. He really wasn't a good student. He didn't really care for the teaching. He was there to kinda get away, pretty much. He did wanna study medicine. He did wanna be the smartest there. He was very serious, but he didn't like the curriculum. He didn't like the teaching. Well, he moved in with a roommate named Fred. And he told Fred, like, "Hey, I'm married, but you need to keep it to yourself. Like, keep it on the down low, 'cause I wanna live the single life." And Fred was like, "Okay, dude, like, sure." And he was okay with it at first, but after that, like, his behavior started acting weird, so Fred was like, "I'm not really comfortable with this anymore."
Like, why would that be something that you mention anyway? Just be like, you just meet this guy that you're gonna live with. Hey, by the way, I'm married, but
Yeah.
don't
It's
tell
like,
anyone. Like,
if you want to live a single life, just don't say that you're married. Like,
e-
that just made it weird for him.
exactly.
Well, there was a lot of tension between them, living together, and he didn't like their behavior, and they actually ended up getting in a fight about mustache wax
Oh, the stupidest thing you can get a fight
over
over.
this stupid I guess it was just they were, like, super tense, and that was the last straw,
It was like,
and they actually got in a fist fight about it because Fred used it without asking, Herman first.
like I mean,
So that's
I get it. Like, uh, getting mad at someone for like using you and your stuff, but I don't think it's something that like calls for like something like a fist fight.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's just a lot the tensions rose, and that was the last straw.
Yeah. So like we said earlier, Herman had a way with words. So he was smooth talking, but he was also dishonest. And he was also a scammer. He was very good at gaslighting people. So a lot of times that he would have like services done, like shoe polishing or stuff like that, and he would like make excuses of why he couldn't pay. For example, like he left his wallet or something like that, and he would have to go get his wallet, and he just would never come back. Um, and when these people would see him, they would like confront him about it, be like, "Hey, dude, you haven't paid me." And he would gaslight him and make them feel like they were crazy. He'd be like, "Yeah, I did. Like, I paid you. I already gave you the money." Um, and he'd do this all the time. He'd make people think they were crazy just from the way he would like gaslight them and stuff like that. And he just continuously scammed people out of their money a lot.
So, like, everything to him was just money,
Yeah,
money, money, money.
yeah.
In school, um, Herman would actually take cadavers back to his dorm room for quote unquote homework.
It's just
And
weird.
one day, Fred ended up smelling like a awful, awful smell in his room, and he couldn't sleep. It was horrible. So he told the front desk lady. Lady checked it out and found kind of like trying to find where the smell was coming from, and the it seemed like it was coming from under Herman's bed. Well, there was like she grabbed her little broom and pulled it out. It was like this black cloth. Well, wrapped in the black cloth was a dead baby,
My goodness.
like a cadaver of a baby. And of
Uh,
course, she flipped out. She freaked out.
of course.
But that is like one of the instances that it just he ended up having to leave Vermont.
That is so weird.
Um,
And for anyone who doesn't know, a cadaver is something that med students work on. It is actual bodies that are
yes,
used to help med students actually identify certain things and help them actually be able to work on actual human bodies.
because you want somebody that's going to be a doctor to actually have some practice.
Yes.
But it's not meant for like horrible things. It's meant for like you can donate your body to science, stuff like
Hmm.
that. You can still donate, and that's where a lot of it came from.
Yes.
Well, Herman, finding his purpose in life, dissecting bodies and scamming people to make money, decided to leave Vermont. During this, though, his wife, Clara, ended up leaving him because he was never home and he was just a really crappy dude to her. After Robert was born, he was never there. He didn't want to be there. He was just a crappy dude. So he moved to Michigan to study at the University of Michigan Med School. This school was actually known for human dissection. So this one is more hands-on studying than the Vermont one. The Vermont schools, you still had a little bit of hands-on because it's med school, but this one is a new upcoming school that was very hands-on and like kind of experimental. Well, the school needed cadavers, and there was just a huge demand because of how many people went to the school, what they needed to learn, the experiments and stuff that did on them. So the school was in need of cadavers. And Herman was like, "Hey, man, I got you. I know a guy." Well, he would dig up bodies at a grave that was just down his house. He actually lived on a road called Cemetery Way. There was the cemetery just down the street to his house, and he would pretty much grave rob. He would sell them to the school, and he would also collect insurance money from said bodies. So if they didn't have they he so he what he would do is he would he would sign them up for insurance, life insurance, and then make it look like an accident, even though they've already been dead, and collect insurance money. Again, 1800s. You wouldn't get away with that today. but then it's only he said, she said stuff.
Right. I don't understand how people would be like, "Hey, we need bodies," and he's just like, "Hey, I know a guy." No one would
I know a
question
guy.
it. Like,
I
what?
got you. But he was making really good money. Like, between the insurance and selling the bodies to school, he was making pretty good money doing this.
So he actually graduated med school in 1884 at the age of 23. After he had graduated, he went to so he graduated from med school and he went on to be a principal. So if you remember back we were talking about, he was actually a teacher for a little while. Um, and so I guess he thought since he had experience in that, he would go try that out. Well, he got bored of being a principal. It's not what he wanted to do. So he ended up moving to Philadelphia and worked at a pharmacy for a short period of time. While he was working at the pharmacy, a little boy had actually died from medication that he had given him. So he had given handed out this medication out, and the this boy died from the medication that he was taking that he had got from Herman. And then right after that happened, Herman ends up leaving. And it's we're not sure if he left because he did it, but I mean, pretty much everything points to
Most
he did
likely
it.
he did it. So at this point, after, he ended up leaving after the boy was found dead, he actually changed his name to from his original name to H. Holmes, Henry Howard Holmes. A lot of people believe that it was because of the Sherlock Holmes books, but it couldn't have been because the books didn't come out till later, like a couple of years later after he like changed his name. So it wasn't from that. But a lot of people believe like, "Oh, it's from Sherlock Holmes. He loves books. He wanted to be like that." But that was kinda debunked because this was the books didn't come out till later.
It makes me curious though, like where he came up with that name. Like, is this just something that he
I don't
thought
know.
up of, or
I don't know, and at this point, he wasn't famous, so the Sherlock Holmes books weren't after him either,
right?
so it's just kind of a coincidence.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, maybe it was after him, but he didn't. That point, no one really knew who he was. So
Yeah. But he started going by that name in Illinois in 1886 in order to take a government test to practice pharmacy. So even though he was working at a drugstore, he was working at a pharmacy. I guess it's because the boy had died and he changed his name, so he had to get practice pharmacy under that name. So he had to take a test. He started his new life in Chicago. I guess new name, new life, changed his whole entire identity, and started over in Chicago. He got a job at another drugstore, and he goes on later to buy the drugstore after the owner dies of natural causes. His wife, um, went ahead and gave, like, H.H. Holmes the ability to buy it, and he gave all the responsibility, and right after he bought it, she ended up disappearing. People would ask, "Where is she?" And Holmes would just be like, "Oh, she's out of town visiting family." And you're gonna honestly, you're gonna see that a lot from now on. He has a way with words, and he just tells people, "Oh, they're out of state, they're visiting family. Don't need to worry about it." And no one worried about it. Um, while he was working there, he had many other scams. One of his most lucrative scam was selling a miracle healing cure. It was just tap water. He literally bottled up tap water and sold it as a miracle cure, and he made a lot of money on it.
I mean, that just goes to show that people buy anything.
Yeah, it's like, oh, like, and that was a big thing in the 1800s was uh just trying to find cures, trying to find things to help foods dying young.
Right, right. It's like that experimental area that you're trying to figure out how to create these things to help people, and I guess they kind of just willing to believe anything.
Oh yeah. In 1888, he started building his empire. He bought an empty lot across from the street from the drugstore he works at and builds a complex building. He doesn't pay the workers, so he would have it all done for free. So the way he would do that is building this complex. He was pretty much the only one that knew the blueprints. He would have multiple people come in, build a room, build a wall, build structure, and then complain, say that they did a really bad job, or he'd be like, "Hey, I already paid you." And they're like, "Well, we didn't get paid." "Well, I'm not paying you again. I already paid you." So they'd stop working. He had multiple groups of construction workers coming and building this house. He would never have the same people come in. So this three-story complex, he's the only one that actually knows the blueprints of it. Um, and of course, he got it all done for free because he didn't pay anyone. He would gaslight. He would he just had a way with talking to people, which is a talent that I do not possess.
Same here. I do not possess that talent at all. It is crazy that how would they go in and build it but not know the blueprint? Like, did he just say, okay? I just need you to build this one wall. Like, that's just
Pretty
it's
much. That's
crazy.
pretty much what happened. He wouldn't have the same construction workers working on the same thing, so he'd be like, "I want this here, here, and here. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
then y'all go away. I'm gonna have to bring somebody else in."
Right, right. So while he was doing this, the complex ended up containing a pharmacy, a restaurant, a blacksmith, a jewelry store, and a barber shop. So that was like all on the bottom. It's kind of like similar to like a strip mall where you have like all the different stores like in one building. So I had they had he had all those different stores in that one building at the bottom.
Yeah. In 1889, with the building done, Holmes decided he needed a partner, like a partner in crime. And he chose Benjamin. He was 33 years old, and he had worked with him before as a woodworker. Unfortunately, he was an alcoholic and he was very easily manipulated. And Holmes had told him, I can make a cure for your alcoholism." And he loved his family. He was a great husband. He was a great father. That was the main thing holding him back. So he's like, absolutely, let's see what we can do to cure this alcoholism. So with Carrie and his 5 kids, they became almost like a part of the family. They were very close, and they spent years just like he was Uncle Herman. He was Uncle Holmes, like, just super, super close to him.
Um, it's essentially like he's like, okay, let me give you this cure, and then Benjamin's like, ah, you're gonna cure me. Well, here's my family, meet my family, and it's just like that
Yeah.
whole situation of like family friend type thing. He become like Uncle Holmes and stuff like that. And so after that, he ends up visiting Minneapolis and he meets a girl named Murda. They end up having a sham wedding. Um, Even though he's still married to Clara, him and Murda end up having a sham wedding. He takes Murda back to Chicago, and has her work at the drugstore. I believe this is the drugstore that was across the street from where he built where
Yes.
he built his new building. After they moved back, she ends up becoming pregnant with a baby girl named Lucy in 1889. After Lucy is born, Holmes actually sends them away. So he brings her to Chicago. She has a baby, and then he just sends her away. And then he only visits them like twice a year. So
That's messed up.
it is
He
like
doesn't
he
like
has
kids.
apparently not. He has two children, and he like as soon as these children are born, he just disappears or has them sent away and wants nothing to do with them. Like,
Yeah.
my goodness.
So after sending them away, Holmes wanted to turn the 3rd floor into a hotel. He went to some investors asking for a loan, and since the World Fair was coming into town and this huge, huge fair that was in Chicago. It was, like, in a few years, so they were trying to build hotels, they were trying to bring people into Chicago, and they were like, "Absolutely, yes. We will give you the money, and, you can build your hotel." But Holmes really didn't want a hotel. He just really needed a cover for what he wanted that building actually for. And in 1890, a jeweler named Ned Connor moved in with his wife Julia and their daughter Pearl. The third floor was was gonna be for the hotel. Um, so it was a lot of the renters that came in were long-term renters and people who worked for him. Holmes offered to sell Ned the drugstore across the street, and he agreed. He was like, "Yeah, like we're new in town. We're like I need a job. I'm gonna go ahead and buy the drugstore." Well, the drugstore has built so much debt unknown to Ned. After he bought it, he was pissed.
I would
Like
be
he
too.
was mad. It was just like another scam. He knew that there was debt, and he sold this building that had so much debt attached to it, and it all fell on Ned's shoulders. Not only was he pissed about, collecting all that debt, he found out that Holmes was sleeping with his wife, Julia.
This guy is just getting screwed over.
Yeah, this poor
This
dude,
poor
that poor
guy.
Ned.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Ned left Julia and Pearl and sold the drugstore back to Holmes, and the girls moved in with Holmes. He later found out that she was pregnant, and they just disappeared. Both Julia and Pearl disappeared. When people would ask where they're at, again, he would just say, "Oh, they're out of state visiting family. Don't worry about it. They're just visiting family."
He really doesn't like children.
Apparently not.
This is the third time.
Mhm.
Third time
It's
someone
like,
got
"Quit,
pregnant.
you know what makes babies, quit doing it."
Exactly. Oh my goodness.
Well, in 1891, the construction on the said hotel was completed. Holmes started advertising jobs and rooms for rent in local papers, specifically looking for young women.
That's creepy.
Um, that's really creepy. What's even more creepy is he put himself in the papers, saying he's a wealthy man looking to settle down and get married.
This is like the 1800s version of like the dating apps.
Yeah, pretty much. To make himself look a little bit better, even better, he filled the hotel with beautiful furniture that he put on credit, and later actually ends up getting it taken away because he never paid for the furniture. But he put it in there to make it more appealing and have more women come in and wanna stay. Uh, he also at this point, he required anyone who worked there or stayed there to take out life insurance policies. So, I kinda understand, working there, but just to stay there? No,
Absolutely
I don't think
not.
so.
I would not be staying somewhere that required me to have a life insurance. Just walk in. Hi, do you have a room available? Yes. Do you have life insurance? Never
Bye.
mind.
Well, he would actually have these people put the premiums, uh, get he would pay the premiums, and if they put him as a beneficiary. So, he would pay for all of the, insurance if they put him as the person that would be able to collect the money.
See, that's just so weird.
Yeah.
Like
I would have
that's
been like, "No, man, no."
mm-mm. No, like that's just like walk into a hotel. May I have a room? You have life insurance? No. Okay, I'll pay for it as long as you make me the beneficiary.
I'm gonna go
No.
down the street. I'm just gonna go down the street.
So, like we said, he was looking for women to stay in the hotel, and he actually frequently engaged with the women who stayed there. Um, and the women that stayed there, he required them to have the insurance policies as well. And a lot of these women would just vanish without a trace, and he would actually go and collect the insurance off of them, the life insurance off of them.
Insane.
Like,
Like, no, that's insane. Absolutely
no,
not.
no, like that's just your first red flag. If so, you go to stay in a hotel, they ask you if you have life insurance or to make them their beneficiary. You say no and leave.
Yeah. It's like, I don't care how smooth talking you are. Like, that's a huge red flag.
Absolutely.
Well, in 1892, Holmes had an affair with Emmeline. Benjamin actually introduced them, and Holmes offered her a job at the hotel for twice as more than what she was making as his personal secretary. He actually ended up proposing to her. Like he was infatuated with her, and he ended up proposing to her. And when a neighbor asked, like, "Oh, when's the wedding?" She was like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna go out of town for a little bit to visit family." So she never like really said yes to Holmes, and that kind of I guess made him mad. And she was never seen again. Like she disappeared. People asked, "When's the wedding? Where's she at?" He would just say, "Oh, she's out visiting family." And it's kinda worked out for him because she gave him an alibi,
Yeah,
already saying, "I'm leaving, I'm not gonna stay here." So that's what he used. Again, woman goes missing. "Oh, she's just out of state visiting family."
yeah.
Um, After this, he goes to Texas for business and meets a Fort Worth heiress named Minnie Williams. And Minnie, she was smart. She was very smart. A lot of people claim that she was very plain, she was um, very naive, and the stuff that I read, I don't think so. She was very smart, and she allowed him to seduce her, so she can get out of where she was and go, go see sights, go get out of the life she was living. Well, he has seduced her for her money that she'll inherit from her grandmother. Um, she chooses to go with him to Chicago to work at the hotel as the new secretary because, the other secretary disappeared.
Disappeared.
She helped she actually helped him with the scams and the stuff that he was like this kind of like the shady stuff that he did. She really didn't I don't think she knew about the murders, but kind of the scams, the insurance scams, stuff like that. She actually helped him with it. He convinced her to sign over her estate, all of her money, her estate, all that kind of stuff, and convinced her sister to do the same thing. Her name was Nanny, and Nanny really didn't care for Holmes when she first met him, but again, being a smooth talker, gaslighting her, making her feel special, she's like, "Okay, I'll sign over everything to you." Well, soon after, they had another sham wedding because he was still married to Clara. So my question is how did he get all these women to be like, "Yeah, let's get married." And unbeknownst to them, he's still
Still
married to his
married.
first wife.
Yeah.
But soon after the wedding and signing over all the land and money over to him, they both disappeared and were never seen again.
I'm sorry, but if you were with someone and they said, you signed over your stuff to him, like estate, and they said, hey, like, why don't you sign your stuff over to me too? I'd be like, no, it's
Yeah.
mine.
Well,
No.
I get Minnie, like, at Minnie's point, she's marrying this man,
Right,
that's her husband,
exactly.
it goes to the man.
Exactly.
But if you married somebody and you're like, "Hey, can you sign over your half too?" I've been like, "No,
No. No,
I don't think so."
absolutely not. Oh my goodness. So after they had disappeared, Holmes ended up taking Benjamin to Texas with him. So Holmes went back to Texas and took Benjamin with him. Um, they started building a new structure there on Minnie's land. And the structure matched his castle, the one that he had in Chicago. It was the exact same thing. It completely matched. It was essentially his second murder castle. Um, Holmes ended up borrowing had multiple bank loans out for to create the building, and still, again, never paid them back. So he created the second murder castle for free without paying me anything.
This dude has a way with words if he was able to scam people out of that much money. Right now, we have talked about the first floor and we have talked about the third floor. So the first floor has the plaza, the third floor has the hotel. But the second floor is what made it the murder castle. It was Holmes' way of torturing and killing his victims. Holmes didn't kill face to face. He didn't have to because the way he set up the second floor, it was like a labyrinth. There was a maze. And remember, with constructing it, he never had the same people um, build, never had the same people continuously building it. So he was the only one that knew the blueprints. Well, the second floor had 35 rooms, pure torture. It had gas chambers. It had a bank vault that he ended up buying during the construction that he didn't pay for, and they were gonna have it taken back. But he's like, "Hey, you can come take it back, but if you touch anything in this building, if you mess up anything in this building, Imma sue you." So they never came and got the bank vault. So he had gas chambers, a bank vault, and with the gas chambers, he would leave people in there. It had little peepholes in it that he could just watch people slowly die. In the bank vault, he would just leave people in there to starve to death, to die of thirst. He made secret passageways so he can come and go undetected um, as he pleased. So he would trap these people in here. He would watch them, never really kill them face to face. He wasn't really a very strong man, so most all of his victims were women. He would use charm and smooth talking to get these women into the hotel. And once they were in the hotel, he would he would drug them, bring them down to the second floor, and once he was done with the bodies, the removal of the bodies were pretty quick and easy because there was a garbage chute that ran up the whole entire building, the castle, going to the basement where there was a crematorium, a kiln that would burn 3,000 degrees, acid tubs, slime pits, just any way to get rid of bodies. And no one on the third floor knew because all the rooms in the second floor were soundproofed.
I still think it's crazy though, even though it's soundproofed. Like, how did he get people up to the third floor without going through the second floor?
I don't I
Like,
I know there was a fake elevator shaft, so I'm assuming stairs, but no one had any business on the second floor, so they would just go from stairs straight from the
yes.
bottom floor to the top floor.
So all while he was doing all of this, Holmes was still continuing to scam people to make money. He would run insurance scams and stuff like that. One of his most favorite schemes was to actually he would go down to Texas and steal horses from other people's ranches and farms, and he would take them out of state to sell them. While he was in Colorado in 1893, he was actually caught and sent to jail for doing this.
Well, good thing he wasn't caught in Texas, or they would have murdered him right then and
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely.
Good thing for him. Well, while he was in jail, Holmes met a train robber named Miriam. He became really close to Miriam. They became pretty good friends while he was in jail, and he came up with a plan and to like pretty much a scam to fake Benjamin's death and collect the insurance money. And Holmes would let Miriam in on the plan if he would give him a name of a good lawyer. Miriam's like, absolutely, I will be part of this. Good money. Let's do it. So they gave him a name of a good lawyer, and Holmes was released January 1894.
Uh, why would you trust someone with the information of a scam you're about to do that you
Well,
met in
he's a
jail?
scammer and he was a thief. So
Like,
neither one of them had good qualities about them.
no.
So
So after he gets released from jail, he actually meets Georgina. She come from a wealthy family, and he has another sham wedding with Georgina on January 17th, 1894 in Denver, Colorado.
he immediately gets out of jail, meets this girl, and was like, "Let's get married."
Like, and he's still married to Claire, isn't he?
Yeah, so
There's
he's had like what 5 wives now.
something like that.
Well, on September 4th, 1849, a client ends up finding Benjamin's body in what looks like a chemical work accident. The plan really didn't go the way that he had told Miriam about. Plan was for Benjamin to take out life insurance policy on himself for $10,000, fake his death, and Holmes would collect the money and split it with him. Holmes agreed and said that he would provide the body. However, Benjamin told his wife the plan beforehand. So before he was found dead, he had told Carrie what the plan was going to be. So Carrie became part of the plan. Well, Holmes got Benjamin drunk and poured chloroform down his throat, making it look like a chemical accident. He also used an oil lamp to burn his hair, his clothes, to make it more believable. Well, the coroner and the police didn't buy it. They didn't believe it was an accident. But it was ruled that way, and he murdered Benjamin, the person that he was supposed to be really close to, person that was supposed to, be like family to him, decides that money's more important and murders him. Holmes told Carrie and the kids that Benjamin was still alive and the plan was working. The plan is going like it's supposed to. And he talked Carrie into sending Alice, their 15-year-old, to him to identify the body. And she did it, not knowing it was actually really her dad. They were able to identify him by his teeth. How does a 15-year-old know to
I,
identify your father with teeth? I don't know.
I don't even know what my own dad's teeth looks like. Do you know what dad's teeth looks like?
No, I would not be able to identify dad by his teeth. But yeah, she identified the body not knowing it was actually her own father.
I wonder if maybe he didn't get scared when when Benjamin told Carrie and then was like, "Okay, gotta come up with a new plan," and then decided
I
to.
just think he was a psycho.
That's very true. So,
He wanted all the money to himself.
right, yeah. So, speaking of wanting all the money to himself, he ended up getting the 5,000 out of the life insurance plan, um, which he still never paid the train robber, and told Carrie that Ben owed him $5,000. So Carrie went ahead and gave him that $5,000, and he told her that he was actually hiding out and that he had to stay on the move. Um, so Holmes ends up getting all the full 10,000, and he's still telling Carrie that he's moving around. He had asked Carrie if she could send two of her kids to travel with him. Um, and Carrie agreed for whatever reason, And
I would not agree to that.
no, she ended up sending 11-year-old Nellie and 8-year-old Howard to join Holmes and Alice, the 15-year-old. The two youngest ended up staying with Carrie and agreeing to travel with them later.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My 8-year-old is not leaving my side. Not me.
No.
Maybe my 15-year-old. You know, she's maybe at
Mm,
that point she's a little young adult, but my 11-year-old and 8-year-old, I
mm-mm.
don't think so.
Right, no, absolutely not.
It's like, I don't care how close you are to this family, you're not taking my kids.
Right.
Well, at this point, Holmes is actually losing it. He is panicking and he's losing his mind. He's having nightmares of Benjamin's rotting body. He really was friends with him and his family, and I feel like at this point, the guilt is eating him alive.
Yeah.
Um, he murdered him, stole from him, and now he has 3 of his kids, and he's completely losing it. From September 28th to November 17th, 1894, he traveled with his wife Georgina and the 3 kids, keeping an eye on where Carrie was so she wouldn't find out that, Benjamin is not actually alive. They traveled through the Midwest and Canada, and every time he made up with Carrie, she would just claim, like, "Oh, you just missed him. He has to be on the move. He has to stay on the move. He kinda came in too slow. You just missed him." Well, before arriving in Detroit, Alice wrote a letter to Carrie, her mother, that she never got, saying that Howard is no longer with us. Holmes actually poisoned him with cyanide in his eggs, dismembered the body, and put him in an oven with wood and corn cobs. It's that's a weird thing to
S-
put in with the body, but
so
sure.
specific.
Psycho. And Alice had no idea how close she actually was to her mom. Holmes kept them completely separate and kept them apart. He actually goes on to kill Alice and Nellie with poison and buries them in the cellar. So the cellar that like the house that they were staying at, because they were moving around a lot,
Hmm.
he ended up just killing them, poisoning them, and put him in a shallow grave in the cellar. There wasn't really he was losing it. He didn't dismember, get rid of the bodies. He just didn't put much effort into it and left them there.
I wonder if like he wasn't afraid like the kids were like catching on and like gonna end up somehow telling Carrie and Carrie tell the authorities.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, honestly, killing the youngest one first probably wouldn't have been the best idea. Because,
yeah,
the 15-year-old's gonna figure it out. She's like,
right,
"Hey, mom, like, something's weird's happening."
right. Like, where's my younger sibling? Like, they're gone. Um, but next time that he met up with Carrie, he actually tried her talking her into letting him take the other two kids. She obviously refused.
Obviously, that's
Obviously.
no.
Um, and Holmes dug a hole in the cellar of the house that they were staying in and left Carrie a note telling her to go down into the cellar. When she went down into the cellar, she had avoided the hole and also missed stepping on a bottle of explosives. So at this point, she's probably caught on that he's trying to kill her.
Yeah, trying to get rid of me. My kids are missing. I don't know where things at. Like, I haven't seen my husband. At this point, yeah, I would assume the same.
Yeah.
Well, you remember Marion, the train robber?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's not very happy. He never got paid, and he had told the police the whole plan
I want to
because
be a.
he was being petty and vindictive to Holmes. So at this point, he's like, I'm gonna tell on you. I'm gonna tell the police because you didn't pay me.
Right. And that's one thing I was gonna like, you're gonna like try to double cross, say, someone else who was in jail that robbed trains and not expecting
You have
them
to
to
do
tell.
anything.
Right.
You weren't smart in that one, buddy.
All right. So with the police and insurance investigators on Holmes's tail, he goes back home to his first wife,
Oh, Joy, yeah,
back
yeah.
to Claire,
Remember his first wife? Yeah.
the one that he's pretty much left and then had 5 million other marriages after that. Um, he actually told her that he was in an accident and lost his memory, and that when he woke one day he woke up and just remembered about them. He remembered them, remembered that he was married and that he has a kid, and that he came straight back home, and that the hospital actually while he was when he had the accident lost all their memories, that the hospital gave him the name H. Holmes, and they believed him.
They believed him.
Yeah.
That is insane. So after believing every word that the psychopath said, he decided to flee back to Boston. He left a note saying that he'll be back, but he was just trying to flee the country. He was trying to go up to Canada and get out of there. Um, Texas ended up sending out a telegram about the horse thefts. The police investigators really didn't have enough evidence to book him, but they were following him around trying to see. But this actually was gave them to reason to arrest him. So when he was arrested and convicted of insurance fraud and theft, but the police knew that there was more to him than just theft and insurance fraud. Carrie was also arrested on fraud charges too. And she knew about the scam, she knew about the plan, and she was arrested along with him. So the police investigated Holmes' castle, and they found a tank of gasoline for stripping flesh from the bone, a furnace to cremate the bodies, a scratched up bench covered in bloodstains he used to dissect the bodies, a rope and a toolbox used to hang the victims from the fake elevator shafts, a dismembered, decomposing bodies in the basement, um, bone preserved in quicklime, and there were so many bodies and pieces of bodies that they couldn't really know how many victims that Holmes had. A body of a child was found, and they believed it was Pearl. Holmes admitted to Julia's death, claiming she died during a botched abortion, and murdered Pearl because she was a witness. They also found a watch chain and fabric in one of the ovens belonging to Minnie Williams. So they went in and found all of this horrific stuff, and like thinking that like, oh, we're getting him for insurance fraud,
Mm-hmm.
and found all of this stuff.
It's crazy. So when they actually confronted Holmes about it, he claimed that the bones they found were just cadavers, and that he had burned, and completely denied that he murdered anyone. Um, he also changed his stories multiple times. So every time they'd ask him about something, he would change it. He would change it and change it. One of the stories that he gave the police was that he claimed Benjamin killed himself, but he made it look like it was an accident to claim the insurance money. And that all the kids were with Minnie Williams, and that she probably took them to London.
So like everything he said, he was a liar. He tried to smooth talk everything, but the police were like, "No, man, like we we caught you.
Right.
We caught you, dude."
There's no more smooth talking your way out of this.
So when he finally figured out, like, okay, they caught me, he confessed to murdering 27 people, but the police found more bodies, and Holmes replied with, "I suppose they'll hang me for this."
Duh.
Yeah, like that's what he had to say. He just had that's the 27. Oh, I killed 27 people. But when the police found some more, he's like, ah, okay, now they're gonna hang me for this. Um, at this point, the media got involved, and it became a huge nationwide like thing. Everyone knew about it, and once they started getting details of the story, it blew up, and it completely terrified people. It freaked people out, and it became a nationwide story.
I just think about the people that were working at that hotel, like working down at the stores at the bottom and working for like I would
Like,
be.
That could have been me. That
Ex-
like, that could have been me that was, like, tortured and killed.
Exactly. Like, that is insane. So, after the news broke, Holmes eventually confessed to killing over 200 people. This included Benjamin, Alice, and Nellie. However, a lot of the names that he was giving to the police were either wrong or they were some people that were still alive. He said that he killed them, but they're still alive.
So, like, there's, like he's just a compulsive liar.
Yeah, compulsive liar, and then he still continued to change his stories, and there were so many inconsistencies in his stories that it was like the police were having a hard time finding the truth and being able to figure out what's right, what's not right. Like, my goodness.
To go along with his compulsive lying and him not telling the truth, while behind bars, he claimed that he was turning into the devil, that the devil made him do it.
Oh, my goodness.
A quote from him actually says, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing. I was born with the evil one standing as my sponsor beside the bed where I was ushered into the world, and he has been with me since." Dude's a psychopath. Like, 1, like, "The devil made me do it," really? Like, no, you knew what you were doing.
Yeah,
2, that is the weirdest way to say you are born.
yeah.
I was ushered into the world. I can figure I when I hear usher, I just think of, like, a theater and, like,
Mm-hmm.
the ushers trying to find a seat. He's like, "Come on, you can do it. Let's go."
You go this way, you got it.
But in 1895, he was convicted of murder, and he tried to appeal it, claiming insanity, but it did not work. So I think at this point, he knew he got caught, he knew he was doing all this. He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna say the devil made me do it, and I'm gonna say I'm insane."
Yeah.
And everyone just kinda looked at him like,
Uh,
nah, bro, like,
no.
no. You murdered all these people, you did all these scams, you're a really crappy dude. No."
You did it. It was all you.
Well, on May 7th, 1896, he was hanged. It was a slow and painful death because his neck did not break, and he hung there for 20 minutes, strangling.
Maybe you deserved
Yeah, he probably
it.
yeah.
Like, honestly, not saying that's like humane, but he wasn't a humane person anyway.
Yeah, it's like,
So,
I don't know. I completely believe in, like, if you do to somebody else, it's gonna be done upon you.
yeah.
Like, he should like, I'd hate to be the person to have to do it, but, like, you're torturing people, you're starving people. He needed to be put in a cage and starved, like
Right,
all
right.
those women that were killed.
Yeah. So his Chicago hotel was remodeled as a tourist attraction named the Holmes Horror Castle. But before it could open, a fire destroyed the complete inside of it. So there was like it was all completely destroyed from a fire that started from somewhere, don't know where. And so it was never able to be open. The building stayed there until 1938. It was eventually torn down and was built. A post office was built in on the lot that it used to stand. I would not want to work at that post office.
Absolutely not. And honestly, it was probably one of the victims' families. Like, if that was me, I would burn it down. I wouldn't be
Absolutely.
like, "Oh, they're the tourist attraction."
Yeah, no.
200 plus people
Mm-mm.
died. I'd burn it down.
Yeah, I don't even know why they thought to make it a tourist attraction anyway. That's just.
I mean, that because there's people like me in the world that, like to
Yeah,
go see
yeah.
those creepy stuff, but, like, there's a such thing as too soon.
Right, right. Like it was like right after he was hanged.
Like, if there was the building today, like, it happened in the 1800s, I wouldn't wanna go see it.
Right.
But if, like, a big giant murder happened, like a huge just 200 plus people died, and, 2 years later, they're opening up if it was a memorial, that's cool, yeah.
Right.
But a museum attraction? No, I don't think so.
No.
Well, there's a lot more to the story, but if we went into every detail, it would be a, 3 to 5 hour episode.
So much information.
But there was a lot more fraud, there was a lot more scams. He was a really scummy dude.
Um,
Um, but before he died, he did say he wanted to be buried in concrete, so his body couldn't be dissected like he dissected everybody else.
this is so dumb.
In 2017, they dug up his grave, finding an empty pine box right above a concrete slab. In the slab, they found Holmes, and his brain was perfectly preserved in this concrete. Um, the person who dug up the body and was wanting to like see if he was actually in there was one of his distant relatives. He also thought that he could be Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper, we can do probably another episode on that, but they had a similar way of killing. They had to have some medical background, um, and they were very similar. Well, investigators followed a trail of documents to track the movements of Holmes, but the trail stops between 1888 and 1889, the same time Jack the Ripper was in London. He was terrorizing London there. So it's thought that he could be Jack the Ripper. Shortly after the last known victim of Jack the Ripper, a passenger under the names of H. Holmes took a ship back from the UK to the US. Could it be him? Like, what do y'all think? Like, you can leave some comments, you can leave some like kind of questions you have for us. But what do you think? Do you think that he could be Jack the Ripper, or do you think it's a totally different guy?
I think honestly, the way a lot of the signs like point to it, I think he could be. Honestly, like it's possible, but then again, you know,
Yeah, it could be anybody.
it could be anybody. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those dude like Holmes scammed and lied and got gaslit everybody. It was just he's an insane dude.
And the fact that you can like talk, like use your way of words to get away with that many things, and like he kept saying, like, "Oh, they're visiting family. Oh, they're visiting family." Like, how are these people not catching on to this? Like, do people not like you? Do they just like leave you, or something else going on?
Yeah, and like how do you get that many women to quote unquote marry you since it was a sham wedding? But
Right.
how? Like you cannot be that like good talking
Right.
because he was known not to be like the best looking guy, and he made people feel uncomfortable by staring too long, by weird touches. But there's no way someone can talk that good to talk people into marrying you. Like
Exactly.
I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to me. Well, that was the story of H. Holmes and his murder castles. Thank you for joining us. And if you liked the episode and you want more like it, let us know and follow us. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. We have an Instagram up
Yes.
and we post kind of like behind the scenes stuff, kind of our editing. If we do post out some episodes not on Thursdays, we will let y'all know there.
And it's under the same name as our podcast, Common Chaos and Sisterhood.
Thank y'all so much for joining us, and y'all have a fantastic day.
Bye.
This dude was a freak. Like, I'm not joking.
Weird.
Don't forget to come hang out with us every Thursday when we talk about the common chaos of sisterhood.